Hello, Dr. Cisse covering anatomy and physiology. Today we'll talk about the nervous system. In this video, we'll talk about the definition of the nervous system, like what is the nervous system, how does it work, anatomically and physiologically, how do you divide the nervous system, and then we'll talk about the different types of neurons and their locations. Now let's introduce the nervous system. It is one of the 11 organ systems of the human body. It controls our conscious experiences, our personality, and behavior. It means that the nervous system determines who we are, how do we act, how do we behave. How does it work? The nervous system receives the information, processes them, and gives command. How does it do that? We have organs called sense organs. What they do, they have receptors that receive the information from, for example, the environment or from within ourselves, take them to the central nervous system, into the brain or spinal cord, process the information, and give command to carry out the work. Now, how does it do that? We'll talk about this in detail. But the point is, the nervous system's job is to inform us. What type of information? Either from the environment or from within ourselves. The nervous systems inform your body about the temperature, about the pressure, about the wind, or everything, or the light, or the sound, or the taste, the smell. And it has to process that information in the brain or in the spinal cord, basically in the central nervous system, then has to make a decision by integrating those information and take a proper response that we call a command. So it has to sense, process, and give command. Who does it give command to or from? We'll talk about this in detail, but the ones that is going to be giving command will be your muscle and your glands, so that they can carry out the job. They can do the job. One example, let's say you see a pizza or you smell a pizza you like. It smells so good, it goes to your brain processes it, and your body will secrete saliva. Why? Because it has to prepare itself to eat the pizza. So your body is responding to the smell of the pizza or just to the view of the pizza. Now, the nervous system kind of looks like the endocrine system because both of them do communication, but the nervous system is a system that works right now, right here, like a quick response. In that, the nervous system will work between cells that are close to each other. They could be further apart from each other, but the connection is kind of closer. There's contact between cells. But in the endocrine system, the hormones are secreted into blood. It will circulate everywhere in the body, only will be attaching to places where you have receptors to receive those hormones. So the nervous system is like a quick response right now, right here. And then the endocrine system will be like a general thing, like for growth and development, for example. How do we divide the nervous system? The nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is made out of the brain and the spinal cord, which are enclosed in the cranium for the brain and in the vertebral foramen for the spinal cord. And the peripheral nervous system is made of the nerve bundle, the nerve fiber coming out of the brain and the spinal cord. When they come out of the brain, we call them cranial nerves. When they come out of the spinal cord, we call them spinal nerve. And then we have ganglia, which are just a bunch of cell bodies, like a group of cell bodies of those neurons in the peripheral nervous system. Look at the picture here. On the blue, in blue and yellow, you can see that the nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. You can see here the central nervous system is made out of the brain and spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system is made of the nerves that come out of the brain and out of the spinal cord. On the diagram here, you can see that this nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system has the brain and the spinal cord as its organ, and then the peripheral nervous system is divided into the sensory division of the nervous system and the motor division of the nervous system. Now, based on where the information is coming from and is going to, we have specific names for it. If the information is coming from your internal organs, it's called the visceral sensory division of the nervous system, of the peripheral nervous system. But if the information is coming from your soma, meaning your body, like your muscles or your tendon or your skin, it is called somatic sensory division. After the information is being processed, the command has to be given. If the command is given to the visceral organ, we call that one will be part of the visceral motor division. Now, the visceral motor division is also called the autonomic division because it's made for you. You don't have to think about making your heart beat or your lung or your urinary system work. No, it's done for you. That's why it's called autonomic. But if the command is given to your muscle, let's say you have to raise your hand, that will be the somatic motor division. Then, when the information has been processed and the command is given to a visceral, like internal organs, it could have two routes. Either it will tell the body to do something, generally, that will be the sympathetic nervous system division, the sympathetic division. Or it could be the opposite, not doing something generally, that will be the parasympathetic nervous system. It depends on the organs. Now, so we talk about the nervous system in general. We say the nervous system is divided into two, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is divided into the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is made of nerves that will come out of the brain or out of spinal cord. Those nerves will have two routes. They're going to have a route that tells the body, gives the information to the brain. We call that the sensory division of the peripheral nervous system. Or after the brain or the spinal cord has processed the information, the command is given through the motor division. So we have sensory division and motor division of the peripheral nervous system. But based on where the information is coming from or is going to, the sensory division can be either somatic or visceral. So if the information is coming from the muscle, for example, it'll be the sensory somatic. If it's going to the muscle, motor somatic. If it's going to from the visceral sensory. If it's going to the visceral, it'll be visceral motor or autonomic nervous system. Now, let's talk about the sensory division, meaning the receiving end of the information on the nervous system. The sensory division, also called the afferent division, carries signal from the receptor to the central nervous system. We call that the afferent division. Why? Because the information is arriving. Coming from where? If it comes from your skin, muscle, bones, or joint, it's called what? Somatic sensory, because it's coming from the soma. But if it's coming from the visceral, it's called what? Visceral sensory division. But after the information has been processed, the command has to be given. When it's going to muscles or joints, it's called somatic motor division. So that division is called the efferent division, exiting, coming out, giving the command. If it's going to the internal organ, we call that the visceral motor division, also called what? Autonomic. Why? Because it's automatically done for you. That one is involuntary. Why? Because you don't make a decision about it. It's done for you. Now, the autonomic nervous system itself is divided into the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. What's the difference between the two? The sympathetic nervous system tends to arouse body for action, usually. Do something. But when you do something, you will not have time to use the bathroom, so it kind of stops your digestive and urinary system. But the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, tend to have calming effect. It slows the heart rate and breathing. But because the person has time, relaxation, it means that you have time to go to the bathroom, so it kind of stimulates the digestive and urinary system. This is the nervous tissue made of nerve cells and supportive cell. The nerve cell is called the neuron, and the supportive cells are called glial cells. You can see that we have 4 types of glial cells here. We'll talk about this in another video, but generally, you have the neuron that is going to be nourished, supported, guided by those glial cells. If you look at this one, for example, you see that the glial cells, we have 4 of them here. We have microglia. Those are cells that will clean around the neuron. We have oligodendrocyte, which looks like a jacket, like a cover in the neuron, so the neuron can be protected, or like the dendrocyte. Then we have astrocyte. Astrocyte kind of give a framework to the nerve tissue, nourish the cell, hold the cell in place. And then we have the ependymal cells that will secrete the liquid in which the neuron need to flow. We call that the cerebrospinal fluid. So we got 4 types of glial cell in the central nervous system. This is the neuron. You can see on the structure of the neuron, you can see the neuron has the cell body on top. In the middle, you see a nucleus here, and it's the cell body, and you see dendrites and axons. The dendrites receive the information that is processed inside the cell body, and the command is given through the axon to the axon terminal for the neuron to talk to the next neuron or to talk to a muscle. So the neurosoma is the cell body of the neuron. It's called the cell body. Why? Because it's the body of the neuron. So it has cytoplasm with all the organelles you can imagine, the rough ER, the lysosome, the Golgi complex, just like a regular cell. And it also has cytoskeleton, where you have things that can run through the cytoskeleton to go from the cell body to the axon terminal. It has no centriole or no mitosis, so the cells will not divide. And the neuron also has dendrite. The dendrite receives the information, and the axon. The axon will be the nerve fiber. So many axons together will come to become the nerve fiber. So you can see the neuron tissue here with all the glial cells. What are the properties of neuron? Excitability, it means neuron can respond to things. Conductivity, things can run on the neuron. Secretion, at the end of the neuron, you will have a secretion to respond to the stimulus. And then let's divide the neuron into classes based on their function, based on what they do. The first, sensory, the one that receive information, will have receptors, something they can use to receive the information. What the receptors do, they detect the stimulus, they detect the information and transmit that information where? Towards the central nervous system. In the central nervous system, we're going to have interneurons who will process that information. And then the command is given through the efferent nervous system on the effector. So the effector will be the organ that will respond to the command. Look at this one. You got 3 functional classes of neuron. You have a receptor on a sensory neuron that will receive information, for example, on your finger. That information is going to be gone to your central nervous system, which could be your brain or spinal cord. And the command will be given through the motor division, the motor neuron, to tell the muscle, for example, to move your hand or to do something. So functionally, meaning the way they work, we have 3 kinds. We have sensory neuron, interneuron, and motor neuron. Based on the structure of the neuron, the shape of the neuron, we have 4 types. We have multipolar neuron, bipolar neuron, unipolar, and anaxonic. These are the picture here. So you can see, for example, the multipolar, we have lots of dendrite branch like a tree, and then an axon with the branches of the axon. Multipolar, like the multiple poles. Then you have the bipolar, only 2 poles. That means the cell in the circle, in the middle, has 2 extensions, axons and dendrite. Then you have the unipolar. You see the cell body, the neurosoma, with 1 extension coming out of it. One side will be the dendrite, the other one will be the axon, or the dendrite could be very end. And then we have some of them that will not have axon at all. We call them anaxonic. At the axon terminal, we know that the projection of the axon will have something at the end that will secrete the neurotransmitter. For example, you see that in axonal transport, we have a 2-way passage of protein. So things are going in and out. We got 2 molecules that we need to know. Kinesin is a motor neuron that goes integrate transport. That means it's going into anterograde, means interior, means from the cell body to the axon terminal. The dynein is another molecule that will take stuff from the end of the axon to the cell body. Some of them are fast and some of them are slow, depending on the type of neurons and their function. You can see a synapse. I just want to show you this quick. The end of the neuron will be secreting neurotransmitter to the next neuron. We call that a synapse. These are a structure of synapse. And synaptic inhibition means that at the end of the neuron, sometimes the neuron can do more or less depending on the activity of other neurons. So how do we forget? Low frequency stimulation of a synapse results in low level intracellular calcium. It means that when the cell is not activated, calcium will not be produced and the cell will not be in the active mode. So let's talk about the overview again. What is the nervous system? We know that now. How does it work? We know that now. So we know these questions. All right. So I'll see you in class. Thank you very much. I will see you next time.